how can someone develop themselves?
Yeah.
Is it basically what we talked about, whether it's networking, or is it training yourself to communicate?
Yeah.
How do someone, if I wanted to develop myself today, what would I do?
I'll read something for you. It's interesting. Thank you for that. But I'll read something for you. It says, how can I? What a magical word. Compared to an environment or a place or anything, how can I can vary depending on different places. For example, for you, you study where, UK?
Yeah.
In the UK, how can I, and in Tanzania, how can I, two different. How can I is in Tanzania probably would not have the coaches probably that are in UK.
Yeah.
How can I can depend also with the type of goal that I'm actually looking forward to.
Yeah.
What am I developing myself into? Because that's also personal development. Am I developing myself spiritually, financially, emotionally, or there's the four pillars, yeah? Spiritually, financially, emotionally, and mentally.
Yes.
Yeah. So how am I developing myself in all those four aspects? How can I? Spiritually, obviously, you have to connect yourself with the right people who have the same goal to grow spiritually. And physically, by the way. Physically the same. Find coaches, trainers, people who can actually influence you on the same. Emotionally and intellectually as well. Emotionally the same. Intellectually also the same, in the sense, okay, what do I need to improve when it comes to a skill? So what do I need to do? How can I do this? I need to find a coach. I need to find a trainer. I need to go to events. I need to go to whatever opportunity in the environment that you're in that can support that goal. That's your how. I mean, let's talk of people saying, I do not have the financial capability to actually do it, to develop myself. That's an excuse. Imagine. There's this. I was about to say the same thing. There's this. I mean, the question is, how can I? What are the resources available?
There's this.
There's this podcast.
Yeah.
My Own Destiny podcast. You get to hear these things. You get to understand.
Hear from different people.
I mean, and it's free. All right. You'd argue about the internet, but really, let's talk about the internet. Really, you cannot afford. Okay. But to me, it's not an excuse. You do have you have information that Diamond and somebody calling himself Paul has some sort of.
You're ahead of the trend.
You're ahead of the trends. You know Baba Levo and literally Mujaku, and literally you're saying you can't have internet. Really, it's not. If no internet, you can talk to someone. Hey, I have this goal. How can you help me? Again, how can you help me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you this book. I'll give you that book. No internet. Anyways, yeah. So there's no excuse. The moment you know you have a how with you, you're good. You have that magical word, how can I? You're good. Actually, it's a book.
Is it?
How can I?
Yeah.
Proper words, yeah? Yeah.
But I think, from what I've observed, because we did a video the other day, me and my co-host were reacting to the comments.
Yeah.
And sometimes the comments come across as sisi ni wajuaji. Like, because we decided to start a podcast, sisi ni wajuaji sana. But I think people don't realize why we tried to start this. Is I didn't know you before Connectors Club.
Yeah.
Or I didn't get to know you more after this podcast.
Yeah.
But by leaving here today, I've personally left with something to what comes with sales training, becoming a good father, energy, that's just from you.
Yeah.
I have another guest tomorrow. I'll
Yeah.
learn from them.
Yeah.
Another guest tomorrow, I'll learn from them. Another guest tomorrow, I'll learn from them.
Yeah.
I'm learning and I'm growing.
Yeah.
So why instead of, because realistically, you wouldn't come, there's no reason or the timing wouldn't make sense for us to just go for a coffee and just meet and just talk.
Yeah.
But having this platform makes it easier for me and you to talk, understand each other, know you more, learn while teaching others. But sisi ni wajuaji.
I have a word. I have something to say about that. Zamani bwana. Zamani I used to live with people's opinions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I never understood that humans we do things so people can have opinions. So it is their right to have the opinion. Nyie ni wajuaji. It is their right to grow from that opinion. I thought before, you know, but I've grown. Now I understand the value of what. It is their right to argue and say, I'll not have a conversation with them. I'm certain and I've judged them. It is their right. It is also their right to come to a realization. Now that I've developed myself, I was wrong the way I was thinking.
They were actually helping.
They were actually helping. Oh, I was supposed to. Oh, imagine someone like that comes to this podcast today, Monty, and says, before you guys, I judged you. Then I grew. Then I actually understood the value. Then I actually aspire to come in this podcast and say the truth. Come out. Imagine that beauty. But for them now, we say, don't judge before being curious. So you can judge or you can be curious. Two things. Yeah. So if you find yourself judging, did I ask a question? Did I ask why? Did I understand why? So the curiosity part of things. And I'll say, whoever that is watching today, before you actually come up with such a comment, probably you have the right to do it, but before you do it, ask yourself, have I asked enough to be able to make a decision? Most of the time when I train sales, actually that's a sales training, when I train sales, I say, before you sell, have you asked enough to help the client make a decision, so you can actually help the client get to make a decision? And before that, did you ask the client, have you seen, heard, or understood enough for you to make a decision? Then the client will say, yeah. Then from there, that's when you move forward with the sale. If not, if you say no, then you find that objection. Where does the no come from in that perspective? So, yeah, there's lots of ways we can look at it.
Wow.
Yeah.
But before the episode started, you said you had some questions for me before we end the podcast.
Yeah. I do have a few questions. But the first is courage. Where did you, how did you get to the courage that you have now to not only impact the African market or the society in general from the my own podcast, my own Destiny podcast, but building Connectors Club and shaking the waves you're shaking? How did you build that courage? And this question is merely geared because I do have a son as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so understanding this, probably it would help a lot.
I think it starts with Mimi Kwanzaa.
Yeah.
As you said. So, as you can see, both of the things you mentioned are things that, as a person, you can use yourself. So imagine a product that you create that you'll be using yourself, but you're just finding yourself impacting other people. So me starting this podcast was sincerely for myself. I remember before I started the podcast, we were talking about this, and my co-host asked me, before I even knew he's going to be my co-host, I told him I want to have a podcast. What do you want your podcast to be about? I want to talk about help. Like, I don't want to miss you, lakini I want to grow with people.
Yeah.
Like, I want people to grow with me just through that podcast. And he asked me, why didn't you start? And I said, I'm looking for a co-host. So we went ahead and started the podcast. Going down to Connectors Club, I see a lot of people doing parties, but why am I not seeing something meaningful of people connecting, especially bridging these gaps of one person and the elites? Okay, let's do it. Myself, I need connections. I got to meet ministers. I got to meet the deputy speaker, whereas in a normal instance, it would be hard to meet. So I got to do it. So the courage started with just me doing it for myself. Then everyone around me will get to achieve it as well. So
Just start.
mimi kwanza.
Hatari sana.
Yeah. And then one thing I get to, I think it's one thing people can be doing is to get feedback from your friends, family, on as a person. And literally last 2 weeks, I remember calling my you could say he's my co-host. He's also my brother. I could also say he's my mentor. We talked and I asked him, I was like, what do you think I'm doing right? And one of the things he did mention is like, you have the courage to start. And I can see it because whenever I put myself into something, I say I just have to start. Everything else will follow through. If you go down one day, Mr. GoodHope, you want to go see Make Your Own Destiny podcast, go to YouTube, go to our first ever video, and you'll see that we just decided to start. Because if you look at how it has changed from then to now, it's two different things. We used to, you see there's someone behind the camera? My coach used to stand up, go hit the record button, and we record. Come back, we record. When you hear tee, the camera stopped, go back, switch it on and record. We used to have these mics. We used to have the wires like this, but best believe we didn't know how to use them. The audio was just from the camera. So we just started and we learned along the way. So I believe in starting and then learning along the way. The matter of, let me just wait for the right time. There's no right time. Voice event. A lot of people was like, you can't do it. The numbers is crazy, you can't do it. Guys, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's do it and fail rather than not doing it. Because I remember we had a team meeting, guys, this is going down. No, it's not going to happen. We can't do it. Who are we going to get sponsorship from? Like, we can't do it. Guys, let's do it. We will learn along the way. Tukifeli tumefeli. But it will happen. We'll understand where we went wrong, and maybe for the future events we won't do it. Things fell through. We did it. So I think it's just a matter of believing that when you work on something, just put your all and work as hard as you can. You learn, you fail sometimes, but you should be using that failure as an L.
Yeah.
Take it as a W because you can learn more on how to use that failure into progressing onto the next.
I love the L and the W.
Yeah.
But you've answered so many of my questions. Yeah, I mean, just start and believing in you, and the fact of the courage of let's see where we failed. That's amazing. So, as I train sales, there's that thing or that mindset or mentality or that fear of the no. Like, okay, I am going to sell to that client. What if he says no? What if I they listen to me and think I am rubbish? What if? And just start is actually very key. Go find out what's not working. I mean, at the end of the day, what we know is we go find out if the client is suitable for our service or product. That's what we do. So we don't go to sell. We go see if there's an opportunity, if there's a real pain point of that client selling. So if you find a salesperson saying, I can't, I'm fearful of a client saying no, they have a different objective. The objective is to sell rather than helping out the client, helping out the client. So for me, and I look back and tie it back to you, is let's find out why it cannot work. Let's find out why we failed. Let's learn from it. But it's a goal.
Yeah.
That's a diamond. Yani umeua maswali mengi sana, in the sense, because I wanted to ask, how did you manage to pay Vusi? Because that's another question. I've actually worked before, wakati naingia kwenye speakers space, nilikutana na our I would say elite speakers ambao wametutangulia, you name them all, and I was eager to be able to have a relationship with all of them, yeah. And I remember telling one of our speakers here in Tanzania, nani prominent kabisa, like, okay, why haven't you guys ever brought Vusi, but Connectors Club and Monty and Musa, these people brought Vusi, and they're young. It was the what if. It's a no. What if we fail? That stopped them. I tell you, it is a pure what if, and we live with it. Monty, that thing is, that was my literal question in terms of, I have to ask about the courage. Where was this from? Let's learn. Let's see. Halafu usiamini, manju, we've actually done the content. There's one content wanasemaga niandika actually, inasema go out there in the market and find the real results, not assumptive results, real results. One, I congratulate you guys. I am proud. I am. Honestly, I am. And if you remember, I told you before, one day I hope, and I said in the video, you'll bless me to actually stand in your podium and add those things we call podium time to us as speakers. But at the end of the day, is impacting your audience. But at 110%, mpaka inafika mahali mtu kama GoodHope, with my vast experience na mvi kabisa ninazo sasa hivi, like seeing the value of that podium, sio mchezo.
Yeah.
And it only started with, let's go and see. Twendeni.
Well, we can end off with, I remember when I was walking back after the event with Vusi, taking him back to the hotel, I was like, Vusi, people never believed I could bring you, right?
Yeah.
And people always hated on me, saying they thought that have so much of an ego to just admit that I can't do it. And this is what he ended with. And this is what he ended as, like, good night. I was like, motherfucker never loved us. So it ended there, and I remember I was like, this laugh is like, motherfucker never loved us. So again, that just took us, like, no one's ever gonna love you. Let's just do it. That's when you get people loving you. I don't think people used to love Diamond before his fame. Look at him now. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, you just have to like him because he's doing what he's doing. So that was GoodHope. Very energetic as usual.
Yeah.
And really appreciate you putting some time in your schedule to come join us in our podcast, Make Your Own Destiny podcast, the podcast that empowers you to shape your future.
Yeah.
And please make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and share to your friend. And as Musa always says, share it with your grandma as well so she can watch. And
I like that.
Yeah. So, guys, today Musa's behind the cameras. He's a bit ill, so please drop a positive comment for him.
Yeah.
So he can join me with the next episode. But thank you very much.